I'll end you today. The words sliced through the evening air like the distant train horn. Watts Horton's hands drove into Delilah Klein's shoulders. Her back hit the gravel between the railway ties, stones biting through her black cardigan. Behind her, the tracks hummed with approaching weight. "Watts, what are you doing?" she gasped. "What I should have done 2 weeks ago," he said, his voice stripped of every gentle tone she'd ever known. The sunset behind him turned his face into a stranger's silhouette. "You think I listened to your sad little stories because I cared?" Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure to subscribe. New stories unfold here every day, and trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. And don't forget to comment which state you're watching from. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in. A gust of wind pulled at her hair. The vibration in the rails grew stronger. She tried to crawl backward, but he grabbed her wrist and wrenched her upright, dragging her closer to the active line. "The key, Delilah. The one your brother gave you before he died. I've been patient. I've been your shoulder to cry on. I've drunk your terrible coffee and pretended to care about your archive work." His grip tightened until her bones ached. "I'm done waiting." "I don't know what you're talking about." She twisted against him, her boots slipping on loose gravel. "Watts, please." His fist connected with her jaw. Her head snapped sideways. Blood filled her mouth. The world tilted, and for a moment, all she could hear was the screaming approach of the freight train. "You're lying," he hissed, yanking her toward the rails. The ground shook beneath her knees. 3 months I've been playing your friend. 3 months of listening to you whine about your dead brother. Give me the crypto key or I put you on these tracks and let the 647 solve my problem." She shook her head, tears burning. "I don't have it. I don't even know what—" The train horn blared, deafening and close. Watts lifted her by the cardigan, her toes scraped metal. "Too late for—" "Let her go." The voice came from the embankment, low and absolute. Delilah twisted in Watts's grip and saw him. A figure in a dark suit, stepping down onto the ties with terrifying calm. The sunset lit his face in sharp angles, brutal jaw, cold eyes, a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. Watts's grip loosened just slightly. "Walk away, man. You don't want this." The stranger moved closer. He didn't hurry. The train was seconds away, but he moved like time bent around him. "I don't want it," the man said. His voice was gravel and steel. "I'm ending it." The elevator didn't have buttons, only a biometric scanner that read Ruiz's palm print. Delilah watched the floor numbers climb. 10, 20, 30, 40. They didn't stop until 52, the penthouse level. She was still wearing Ruiz's suit jacket, draped over her torn cardigan. It smelled like expensive cologne and gunpowder. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "You said you're a crime boss," she said to break the silence. "What does that mean?" Ruiz stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the numbers rise. "It means I control territory, move money, employ people who do things the law doesn't permit. You kill people. Sometimes." He didn't look at her. "But I have rules. No children, no civilians, no one who isn't already in the game." His jaw tightened. "Elias Thorne has no such boundaries." The elevator doors opened onto a sprawling space of floor-to-ceiling windows and cold modern furniture. Everything was glass, steel, and sharp angles. The city spread out below them like a circuit board, lights glittering in the darkness. Ruiz guided her inside with a hand on her elbow, gentle but firm. "Sit." She sank onto a leather couch that probably cost more than her annual salary. Her legs finally gave out completely. He disappeared into another room and returned with a first aid kit and a bottle of water. He crouched in front of her, opening the kit with practiced efficiency. "This will sting," he said, dabbing antiseptic on the cut along her cheekbone. She flinched but didn't pull away. "Watts wouldn't do this." "Not really. He must be, I don't know, sick, or being blackmailed, or—" "He's none of those things." Ruiz applied a butterfly bandage with surprising gentleness. "He's exactly what he was hired to be." "You don't know him like I do." Something almost like pity crossed Ruiz's face. "Come with me." He led her to a wall of monitors in what looked like a security office. His fingers flew across a keyboard, and surveillance footage filled the screens. The first image showed Watts sitting in a restaurant booth across from two men. Even in the grainy footage, Delilah could see the guns holstered under their jackets. "This was taken 4 months ago," Ruiz said. 2 weeks before Watts accidentally bumped into you at the library." He pulled up another image. "Here he is, meeting with Thorne's second-in-command, reviewing your work schedule, your apartment building, your daily routines." Delilah's stomach twisted. "No, that's not. Here." Another image. Watts sitting in a car outside her building, camera with a telephoto lens in his lap. And here, Watts following her through a grocery store, 3 aisles back. And here, Watts at a shooting range, practicing with the same knife he'd pulled on the tracks. "Stop." Her voice broke. "Please stop." Ruiz turned off the monitors. "Watts Horton is a cleaner. He specializes in long-term infiltration. He's done this before, befriended targets, gained their trust, extracted information or access, then eliminated them." He pulled up a file on the center screen. Subject profile, Delilah Klein. Age 28. Archivist. Recently lost brother to suspected accident. Socially isolated. Grief vulnerable. Recommendation. Friendship approach. Emotional support tactic. 3-month timeline. The words swam in front of her eyes. "He profiled me." "He studied you like a textbook." Ruiz's voice was quiet but relentless. "Your grief over Jacob made you the perfect target. You were lonely. You needed a friend. So he became that friend. Every coffee date where you talked about your brother, he was interrogating you. Every time he helped you sort through Jacob's belongings, he was searching. Every secret you shared, he was filing it away." Delilah pressed her hands to her face. Every moment replayed in her mind with this new, horrible context. The way Watts always steered conversations back to Jacob, the questions that had seemed like concern, but were really reconnaissance. The way he'd insisted on helping her organize Jacob's files, his desk, his computer. Why? The word came out strangled. "What does Thorne think I have?" Ruiz pulled up another file. This one showed Jacob, her brother's face smiling in an ID photo she'd never seen. "Your brother was a cryptographer, brilliant with code. Thorne recruited him to build encryption systems for offshore cryptocurrency accounts, $14 million spread across 63 wallets." Ruiz's eyes met hers. "Jacob built the system. Then he stole the master key, the one access code that unlocks everything. He was going to turn state's evidence, use the money to disappear. Take you with him. Jacob died 3 months ago. Jacob was murdered 3 months ago." Ruiz's tone left no room for doubt. "Thorne had his brakes cut, but before Jacob died, he hid the key. And Thorne believes he told you where it is, or gave it to you, or encoded it in something he left behind." Delilah's mind raced through the boxes of Jacob's things still stacked in her apartment. His books, his laptop, his notebooks full of code she couldn't read. "I don't have it," she whispered. "I don't even know what I'm looking for." "That's the problem." Ruiz closed the files. "Thorne won't believe you until he's torn you apart looking. And by then, you'll be dead either way." The city glittered below them, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere out there, Watts was waking up. Thorne was mobilizing. An entire criminal underworld was turning its eyes toward her. Delilah looked at Ruiz. This stranger who'd saved her life. This criminal who knew more about her brother's last months than she did. "What do I do?" she asked. Ruiz's expression was unreadable. "You survive, and you let me handle the rest." Delilah spent the night curled on Ruiz's couch, unable to sleep, staring at the city lights and thinking about codes, about her brother, about the way Jacob always said, "Information wants to hide in plain sight." By dawn, she was pacing. "My brother didn't give me a physical key," she said when Ruiz emerged from his office, looking like he hadn't slept either. That's not how Jacob thought. He was a cryptographer. He'd hide it in data. Ruiz poured coffee with mechanical precision. "We've analyzed his laptop, his phone, his email accounts. Nothing. Because you're looking in the obvious places. Delilah's mind was racing now, her archivist training kicking in. Jacob gave me an e-reader 6 months before he died, said he loaded it with books I'd like. I thought it was just a birthday gift. Ruiz set down his cup. Where is it? My apartment, bottom drawer of my nightstand. He was already pulling out his phone. Silas, Delilah's apartment, nightstand, bottom drawer, e-reader device. Bring it here. Wait. Delilah crossed her arms. I'm not going to sit in this glass prison while your people rifle through my things. You're not going anywhere near that apartment. It's my life. Your life is the only thing keeping you valuable right now. Ruiz's voice was flat, final. If Thorne gets what he wants, you become disposable. So yes, you stay here. You stay safe. You stay alive. I'm not a child. Her voice cracked despite her anger. I'm a prisoner. You're a civilian in a war zone. He moved closer, and for the first time his control seemed to slip. You don't belong in this world, Delilah. You belong in libraries and coffee shops and a life that doesn't involve men like me or Thorne. And I'm going to make sure you get back to it. Why? The question burst out of her. Why do you even care? Ruiz's jaw tightened. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, because when I look at you, I see someone who still believes people can be good, and that's not something I can afford to let Thorne destroy. Before she could respond, the office door opened. Silas entered, his tactical vest still on, phone pressed to his ear. His expression was grim. Boss? We've got movement. Ruiz's entire demeanor shifted, from vulnerable to lethal in a heartbeat. Show me. Silas pulled up a tablet displaying a grid of the city, red dots clustered in patterns. Thorne's mobilizing, not just his people. He's called in favors from the North Side crew, the Port Authority runners, even some freelancers from Baltimore. How many? 40 plus confirmed, and they're not hiding. Silas zoomed in on several locations. They're hitting known associates, squeezing sources, putting out word on the street. He wants everyone to know he's hunting. Delilah felt the blood drain from her face. He's doing this because of me? He's doing this because $14 million buys a lot of motivated violence, Ruiz said. He studied the map, his expression calculating. He's moving faster than I expected. Sloppy. Desperate, Silas corrected. The other syndicates whose money Jacob stole, they're putting pressure on Thorne. He has to produce results or lose credibility. Which makes him more dangerous. Ruiz turned to Delilah. How long to crack the e-reader? If the key is hidden in the file structure, hours, maybe days. I'd need specialized software. A sharp alarm cut through the penthouse. Red lights pulsed along the ceiling. Silas's hand went to his weapon. Lobby breach. Someone tried to access the resident elevator. Ruiz moved to the monitors. Footage showed 3 men in maintenance uniforms crowding the elevator doors on the ground floor. Security guards were already confronting them. They're not trying to get in, Ruiz said quietly. They're testing response time, counting guards, mapping our security. It's a probe, Silas confirmed. They'll come back with a real team. Delilah watched the men on screen retreat calmly, unhurried. They'd gotten what they came for. How did they find us? They didn't have to. Ruiz's voice was cold. I'm not exactly anonymous. Every criminal in the city knows this building. I stayed here because the security was worth the exposure. But now, he shut down the monitors. Now we're a known location, and Thorne has numbers. So what do we do? Delilah hated the fear in her voice. Ruiz exchanged a look with Silas. Some silent communication passed between them. We move you, Ruiz said. There's a brownstone in the financial district, off-grid. No digital footprint. It was a black site for witness protection before the program shut it down. Only 3 people know it exists. How secure? Silas asked. Secure enough to buy us time. Ruiz grabbed his coat. Get her ready. We leave in 20 minutes. As Silas moved to gather equipment, Ruiz turned back to Delilah. His eyes were hard again, the vulnerability from earlier locked away. Pack light, he said. And understand something. The moment we leave this building, we're exposed. Thorne's people will be watching. If something happens, if we're separated, you run. You don't look back. You don't try to help. You run. What about you? His expression was unreadable. I've been doing this a long time. I know how to survive. But do you know how to live? The question formed in Delilah's mind but never reached her lips. Because looking at Ruiz Ward, at the scars on his knuckles, the weight in his eyes, the way he moved through the world like he was already a ghost, she realized he'd stopped trying to answer that question a long time ago, and somehow, impossibly, that made her want to save him just as much as he was trying to save her. The brownstone looked like every other building on the tree-lined street. Brick facade, iron railings, window boxes that hadn't seen flowers in years. Forgettable, invisible, perfect. Ruiz led her up the steps with Silas covering their rear, scanning the street with professional paranoia. Inside, the space was small but functional. Hardwood floors, minimal furniture, blackout curtains already drawn. It smelled faintly of dust and disuse. "It's not the penthouse," Ruiz said, locking 3 separate deadbolts behind them. "It's warmer," Delilah replied, and it was. Not physically, the heating system groaned to life reluctantly, but something about the human-scaled rooms made it feel less like a cage. Silas did a security sweep, checking windows and sightlines, then nodded to Ruiz. "Clean. I'll post up on the corner, 3-hour rotations with Marcus." After he left, the silence pressed in. Delilah stood in the middle of the small living room, still wearing Ruiz's jacket, unsure what to do with herself. "There's food," Ruiz said, moving to the kitchen. "Nothing fresh, but the pantry's stocked." She followed and found him pulling out canned soup, crackers, bottled water, provisions for people in hiding. He heated the soup on the stove, tomato, bland and institutional, and divided it between 2 bowls. They ate at a small table that wobbled slightly. No monitors, no security feeds. Just 2 people with spoons and soup that tasted like cardboard. "When was the last time you did this?" Delilah asked. "Did what?" "Sat at a table, ate a normal meal." Ruiz considered the question like it was a trap. "I eat. At restaurants where people bring you things, or standing at kitchen counters while you work." She stirred her soup. "This is different. This is domestic." Something flickered across his face. "I don't do domestic." "Why not?" "Because people who love me end up dead." He said it flatly, like reciting a weather report. "It's not philosophical, it's statistical." Delilah set down her spoon. "Is that why you never let anyone close?" "I let people close. Silas, my men. People who chose this life." His jaw tightened. "But you didn't choose this. You're here because your brother made a mistake and I made a promise." "That's not the same as—" He stopped himself. "As what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and carried his bowl to the sink. His phone buzzed. Then again. He checked it, and his entire body language shifted. "What is it?" Delilah asked. "Thorne. We found him." Ruiz was already moving, pulling on a shoulder holster, checking the magazine of a gun she hadn't noticed he was carrying. "He's at a warehouse in the industrial district, meeting with the Baltimore crew. If I hit him now while he's exposed—" "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. "I have to." He secured the holster and turned to face her. His expression was harder now, the vulnerability from dinner locked away. "This is our window. If I can take Thorne off the board, this ends. You get your life back. Or you get killed. That's always a possibility." He moved to the counter and placed a handgun next to a burner phone. "But less likely than the alternative." Delilah's chest tightened. She'd known him less than 48 hours, but the thought of him not coming back felt wrong. Impossible. "Listen carefully," Ruiz said, his voice dropping into command mode. "I'm leaving Silas and Marcus outside, but if something happens, if somehow they're compromised, you follow these rules exactly." He held up one finger. "Rule 1. These locks stay engaged. All 3. Don't open them for anyone." Second finger. Rule 2. If someone knocks claiming to be one of my men, they must use the phrase, "The sky is gray," not "It's gray" or "Gray sky." Exactly those words. If they don't say it perfectly, you don't open the door. Third finger. Rule 3. If they say the phrase, "You ask them what I left on the counter," the answer is the gun, not weapon or pistol. They say gun or you don't open. Understood? Delilah nodded, her throat tight. The sky is gray, gun on the counter. If anything feels wrong, anything, you take that gun, you go out the back window, and you run. The alley leads to a subway entrance 2 blocks east. You get on a train, any train, and you disappear. He pulled a roll of cash from his jacket and placed it next to the phone. This is enough to get you anywhere in the country. I don't want to run. If you have to, you will. His eyes locked on hers. Promise me. Ruiz. Promise me, Delilah. The use of her name, soft, almost pleading, broke something in her. I promise. He nodded, satisfied. Then did something unexpected. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his knuckles brushing her cheek. The gesture was so gentle it almost hurt. I'll be back in 4 hours, he said. Maybe less. What if you're not? Then Silas will come, and you follow the protocol. He stepped back, restoring the distance between them. Stay away from the windows, don't turn on unnecessary lights, and don't answer the door for anyone who isn't me or Silas. He moved to the door, his hand on the last deadbolt. Ruiz, Delilah called. He turned. Don't die. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. That's the plan. Then he was gone. The locks clicked into place from the outside. 1, 2, 3. Heavy and final. Delilah stood in the silent brownstone, the gun on the counter gleaming dully in the lamplight. Outside, she could hear the distant sound of traffic, of people living normal lives in which no one was hunting them. She wrapped her arms around herself and waited. 4 hours, maybe less. She hoped he was right. Time moved differently in the brownstone. Minutes stretched into hours. Every settling creak of old wood sounded like footsteps. Every car passing outside could be them coming. Delilah sat on the couch with the gun beside her, safety off like Ruiz had shown her. The metal was cold and heavy and foreign in her hand. She'd never held a weapon before 2 days ago. Now it felt like an extension of her arm. 3 hours passed, then 3.5. She checked the counter for the 10th time. Gun, phone, cash. The protocol items arranged exactly as Ruiz had left them. The sky is gray. What's on the counter? Gun. She repeated it like a mantra. At hour 4, footsteps sounded on the stairs outside. Heavy, deliberate. Delilah's hand tightened on the weapon. A knock. 3 sharp raps. Delilah. The voice was familiar, Silas's measured tone. It's Silas. Ruiz sent me. We have to move you. Thorne's men are coming. Her heart hammered. She moved toward the door, then stopped. Something in Ruiz's intensity when he'd given her the rules echoed in her mind. Don't open the door for anyone who isn't me or Silas. But also, they must use the phrase. What's the phrase? She called through the door, her voice steadier than she felt. A pause. Then, the sky is gray. Perfect, exactly right. Relief flooded through her, but Ruiz's third rule nagged at her. What did Ruiz leave on the counter for me? She pressed closer to the door, listening. Another pause, longer this time. The cash. He left cash so you could run if you needed to. Delilah's blood turned to ice. She looked at the counter. Gun, phone, cash. He'd said gun. The answer was gun. She backed away from the door, raising the weapon with shaking hands. You need to leave, now. Delilah, we don't have time. The door exploded inward. Not picked, not finessed. Kicked with brutal force that ripped the top deadbolt clean out of the frame. The man who stumbled through wasn't Silas. It was Watts. His face was mottled with bruises from where Ruiz had beaten him on the tracks. His left arm hung in a makeshift sling, but his eyes were clear and cold and fixed on her with absolute focus. "You should have just opened the door," he said. Delilah fired. The gun kicked hard, the sound deafening in the small space. The bullet went wide, splintering the doorframe beside Watts's head. He moved fast despite his injuries, closing the distance before she could fire again. His good hand caught her wrist and twisted. The gun clattered away. She grabbed the lamp from the side table, heavy brass base, and swung it at his head. It connected with his temple with a sickening thud. Watts staggered, blood running into his eye. "You bitch," he snarled. Delilah ran for the back window, the escape route Ruiz had shown her. But Watts caught her ankle. She went down hard, chin cracking against hardwood. Stars exploded across her vision. He dragged her back, flipped her over. His knee pressed into her chest, crushing the air from her lungs. In his good hand, a syringe appeared. "I told you I'd end you today," Watts whispered. His face was inches from hers, blood dripping onto her cheek. "I keep my promises." "Ruiz will kill you," she gasped. "Ruiz isn't here." The needle bit into her neck. "He's busy dying in a warehouse on the other side of the city. Thorne made sure of that." Cold spread through her veins. The room tilted, edges blurring. She tried to fight, but her limbs went heavy, unresponsive. "That's it," Watts said, almost gentle now. "Just go to sleep. When you wake up, we'll have a nice long conversation about your brother's codes." Darkness swallowed her vision. The last thing she saw was Watts's battered face, smiling. Then nothing. The brownstone door hung open, splintered wood and twisted metal where the deadbolt had been. Ruiz stood in the doorway, his hand still on his weapon, taking in the scene with the cold assessment of a man cataloging his failures. Overturned lamp, blood on the hardwood, not much, but enough. The gun gone from the counter, and Delilah, gone. For 3 seconds, he was perfectly still. Then he grabbed the small table and hurled it against the wall. Wood exploded into splinters. The violence was sudden, total, and over in a breath. When it passed, his hands were shaking. "Boss!" Silas appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn, scanning for threats that were already gone. He took in the destruction and his boss's expression. "How long?" "Can't be more than 20 minutes. Ruiz's voice was flat again, controlled, but something underneath had cracked. "She fought. There's blood on the lamp. I'll call the team." "No." Ruiz was already moving, pulling up his phone, accessing traffic cameras through backdoor software. "Get me eyes on every vehicle that left this block in the last half hour." Silas worked his own phone, fingers flying. "Got it. 3 vehicles, 2 registered locals, 1 van with dealer plates, heading east toward—" He stopped. "Say it." "The shipyards, Thorne's territory." Ruiz's jaw tightened. He pulled up a schematic of the shipyard complex on his phone. 12 warehouses, 3 access points, high ground positions. It was a fortress, deliberately chosen for exactly this scenario. "We can mobilize 15 men in 20 minutes, Silas said. "Hit them fast. Multiple entry points. He'll kill her the moment he sees us coming." Ruiz stared at the schematic. "Thorne's not stupid. He knows I'll come. He's counting on it. The second our vehicles show up, she's dead. Then what? We can't just—" "The math doesn't work." Ruiz said it quietly, almost to himself. "No matter how I run it, we lose. We go in heavy, she dies. We negotiate, he kills her anyway once he gets what he wants. We wait, he tortures her until she breaks or dies trying." Silas had been with Ruiz for 8 years. He'd seen his boss fight, kill, survive impossible situations through pure, calculated violence. He'd never seen him look like this. "Boss," Silas said carefully, "what are you thinking?" Ruiz pulled out his laptop, setting it on the counter next to where the gun had been. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. "I'm changing the math." He typed an email address, not one from his usual contacts. Silas leaned closer and his face went pale. That's FBI cybercrimes." "I know." "Boss, you can't—" "I'm giving them Thorne." Ruiz's voice was steady now, decision made. Every operation, every account, every location, the cryptocurrency pipeline, the money laundering networks, the entire infrastructure. I'm handing them the biggest bust of their careers. You'll implicate yourself. Silas grabbed his arm. Everything you give them on Thorn ties back to you. They'll use your own evidence to build a case. You're talking about 20 years minimum, maybe life. Ruiz met his eyes. I know. There has to be another way. There isn't. Ruiz pulled his arm free and started typing. This is the only move Thorn won't see coming. He expects violence. He expects negotiation. He doesn't expect me to break Omerta. The code of silence. The one absolute rule of their world. You don't cooperate. You don't testify. You don't bring the law into criminal business. Breaking it meant exile, death, or worse, becoming a pariah in the only world you knew. They'll bury you, Silas said quietly. Every family, every crew. You'll have no one. I'll have a clear conscience. Ruiz's fingers flew across the keys, attaching files, laying out everything. And she'll be alive. She's a civilian you barely know. She's someone who still sees good in people. Ruiz hit send. The email disappeared into the void. And I'm not letting Thorn take that from her. His phone buzzed immediately. A callback number. He dialed. Special Agent Chen, FBI Cybercrimes. Who is this? Someone who can give you Elias Thorn. Ruiz's voice was ice. I'm sending you real-time location data, financial records, and operational details. In exchange, you mobilize every asset you have to a shipyard in 45 minutes. What's the situation? Hostage scenario. Civilian female, no criminal ties. If you want Thorn, you move now. A pause. What's your angle? Ruiz looked at the broken door, the blood on the floor. Does it matter? Another pause. Then, we'll be there. But whoever you are, you're coming in too. I know. He ended the call. Silas stared at him. Get the car, Ruiz said, pulling on his coat. I'm going to the shipyard. To do what? Make sure she stays alive until the cavalry arrives. He checked his weapon, chambered around. Even if I don't. Delilah woke to the taste of rust and blood. Her head throbbed where it had hit the brownstone floor. Her wrists burned where zip ties cut into skin. She was sitting in a metal chair in the center of a vast, empty space. Warehouse. Old. The air smelled like salt water and engine oil. Broken windows high above let in moonlight that sliced through darkness in pale shafts. Ah, she's awake. The voice was smooth, educated. Nothing like Watts's rough desperation. A man stepped into the light, 50s, silver hair, expensive suit that looked absurd in the decrepit surroundings. His eyes were the coldest thing she'd ever seen. Elias Thorn. Ms. Klein. He smiled like they were at a dinner party. I apologize for the accommodations, but privacy is essential for our conversation. Behind him, Watts paced like a caged animal. His face was worse now, swelling, closing one eye. He wouldn't look at her. I don't have what you want, Delilah said. Her voice came out hoarse. We'll see. Thorn pulled up a chair, sitting across from her like they were about to have tea. Your brother was remarkably clever, but everyone breaks eventually. It's just a matter of finding the right pressure point. Before he could continue, a sound echoed through the warehouse. Metal screeching against concrete. The massive loading doors were opening. Everyone turned. A single figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, hands raised, palms out. As he walked into the light, Delilah's heart lurched. Ruiz. He was alone. No Silas. No team. Just him. Walking into the lion's den with his hands up like a surrender. Ruiz Ward. Thorn stood, genuinely amused. You're either very bold or very stupid. Ruiz didn't respond to Thorn. His eyes found Delilah, scanning her systematically, checking for injuries, for trauma, for signs of torture. When he saw she was relatively intact, something in his expression eased fractionally. Are you hurt? He asked her, ignoring Thorn completely. I'm okay, she whispered. You came alone, Thorne observed. No dramatic rescue? No small army? I came to make a deal. Ruiz finally looked at Thorne. His hand moved slowly to his jacket pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. This is what you want, the master encryption key, Jacob Klein's codes, access to all 14 million. Thorne's eyes gleamed. How did you? It was hidden in an e-reader he gave his sister. Buried in the firmware. Took our best tech 4 hours to extract. Ruiz held it up, letting it catch the light. Everything you've been looking for is right here. Give it to me. Thorne extended his hand. No. Ruiz's voice was absolute. First, she walks. You're not in a position to negotiate. I snap this drive in half and you spend the next decade trying to crack passwords that reset every 72 hours. Ruiz's thumb hovered over the metal casing. You know Jacob's encryption. He built in fail-safes, one wrong access attempt, and the whole system locks permanently. Thorne's smile faded. You destroy $14 million? I'd destroy 100 million if it meant she walks out of here alive. Ruiz took a step forward. She goes to the door, she leaves, then you get the drive. Boss, Watts said nervously. We can't just… Shut up, Watts. Thorne studied Ruiz with new interest. You're willing to trade everything for her. A woman you barely know. How… sentimental. Practical, Ruiz corrected. She's a civilian. She doesn't belong in this. No. Thorne circled closer, predatory. It's more than that. You love her. It's written all over your face. Love has made you weak, Ward. Ruiz's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. It's made me dangerous. The words hung in the air like a threat. Because a man with nothing to lose is just a soldier, Ruiz continued, his voice dropping to something cold and final. But a man protecting something worth dying for? That's a force of nature you can't calculate. Thorne laughed, but it sounded forced. Very dramatic. But you're still one man, and I have… The flash drive slipped slightly in Ruiz's grip, his thumb pressing harder. All right, Thorne held up his hands. Fine. She walks. Cut her loose, Watts. Watts moved toward Delilah with a knife. His hands shook as he sawed through the zip ties. When her wrists came free, she stumbled to her feet. Go, Ruiz said quietly, not taking his eyes off Thorne. Straight to the door. Don't look back. Thorne held her gaze for a long moment, his eyes searching for deception. Then he nodded toward the door. Go. Slowly. Delilah limped forward, each step deliberate, her injured ankle screaming. Behind her, she heard Thorne insert the drive into his tablet. The warehouse seemed to hold its breath. Don't move too fast, sweetheart, Watts called after her, his gun still trained on her back. Thorne's fingers danced across the screen. Delilah was 10 feet from the door when his face changed. The tablet's display flashed red, not the green of a crypto wallet, but the pulsing crimson of an active signal. You brought the feds! Thorne's scream shattered the silence. Before anyone could react, floodlights exploded through the high windows, turning night into day. The wail of sirens surrounded them like a tightening noose. FBI! Drop your weapons! The world became chaos. Thorne sprinted toward the back exit. Watts stood frozen for one heartbeat, then his face twisted with rage. He swung his gun toward Delilah. You bitch! Movement exploded from the shadows. Ruiz didn't dive for cover. He ran, not away from the danger, but straight toward it, toward her. Delilah, down! She dropped as Ruiz launched himself across the space between them. The gunshot was deafening. Ruiz's body slammed into hers, driving them both behind a metal crate, as the bullet meant for her heart tore through his shoulder instead. He grunted, just once, then was moving again. Blood bloomed across his shirt, but his hands were steady as he rolled, grabbed Watts's gun arm and twisted. The weapon clattered to the concrete. Ruiz's fist connected with Watts's jaw. Once, twice, Watts crumpled. Hands behind your head, now! The FBI SWAT team swarmed through every entrance, a black-clad flood. Ruiz dropped immediately to his knees, lacing his fingers behind his head. Blood ran down his arm, dripping onto the floor. Alejandro! Delilah crawled toward him, her voice breaking. His eyes found hers, soft, calm, almost peaceful. No fear, no regret. An agent yanked Ruiz's arms down to cuff him. He hissed in pain but didn't resist. You made it easy for us, Ward, the agent said, securing the cuffs. Ruiz's gaze never left Delilah's face. A slight smile touched his lips, even as blood soaked through his shirt. I made it count. Two agents pulled him to his feet. Delilah reached for him, but hands held her back. She watched, helpless, heartbroken, as they led him toward the door, his blood leaving a trail of red on concrete. He'd saved her life, and in doing so, sealed his own fate. 3 months later, Delilah stood behind the counter of Morrison's Books, scanning returns with mechanical precision. The store was quiet, just the hum of the heater and the rustle of pages from an elderly customer browsing mysteries. She was safe. Her brother's legacy was secure, the insurance money finally released. Thorne was in federal prison awaiting trial. Watts faced a dozen charges. Everything had worked out exactly as it should, so why did her chest feel hollow? Every night, she dreamed of blood on concrete. Of dark eyes looking at her with impossible calm as they led him away in handcuffs. She'd called the FBI twice, asking about Alejandro Ruiz. Both times, they'd told her the case was classified. He was gone, serving life, probably, because of her. The clock struck 6. Delilah locked up and walked home through the November cold, her ankle, fully healed now, carrying her up the 3 flights to her apartment. Her door was unlocked. Ice flooded her veins. Memories crashed over her. Watts's smile, the barrel of a gun, the warehouse. Her hand shook as she grabbed the umbrella from the hallway, raising it like a weapon. She pushed the door open. A figure stood by her window, backlit by the city lights. Tall, familiar, not possible. Hello, Delilah. The umbrella clattered to the floor. Ruiz turned to face her. He wasn't wearing a suit. Just jeans and a worn t-shirt. No blood, no cuffs. He looked different, his shoulders relaxed, his expression open. Lighter somehow, as if he'd set down a weight he'd carried for years. How? Her voice broke. How are you here? The drive. He took a step closer. It didn't just have evidence on Thorne. There were files on 3 major syndicates: Volkov's operation in Brighton Beach, the Ortega cartel, Chen's trafficking network. Names, dates, transactions, everything. I don't understand. The FBI made a deal. I gave them the entire criminal underworld on a silver platter. His smile was small, sad. In exchange, they gave me a clean slate. New identity if I wanted it. Witness protection. But you're here. Tears burned her eyes. In my apartment. Witness protection without the protection. He closed the distance between them. I gave up the city, Delilah, the reputation, the connections, everything I spent 20 years building. I kept the only thing that mattered. She couldn't breathe. What? You. The word shattered her. She rushed forward, and his arms caught her, solid and real. She buried her face in his chest, feeling his heartbeat, his warmth, proof that this wasn't another dream. I thought you were gone, she whispered against him. His hand cradled the back of her head. I'm not going anywhere. His voice was rough with emotion. No more endings, Delilah. I promise. No more endings. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face, but smiling now, finally smiling. This time, the story got to continue. Thank you for staying with me till the very end of this story. Every view, every comment, every moment you spend here keeps these stories alive. If you felt this one, make sure to subscribe and let me know you watched to the end.